Sallee.
Going Postal, take one. I regret nothing.
And you can just throw it on the side.
There we go.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you, crew. Really, really appreciate it. All right, Jake, so just to start, what is your name and what do you do?
My name is Jake the Voice Parr. I am a community radio DJ, voice actor, and freelance writer.
Amazing. That was fantastic. Let's do one more for safety.
Okay.
What is your name and what do you do?
My name is Jake the Voice Parr. I'm a community radio DJ, writer, freelance writer, and also voice actor.
Awesome. So can you tell us about how you got into radio and about your career?
Sure. So how I got into radio was, it was during my second year of university here in the University of Lincoln. And for a fair bit of a while, I had quite a few people coming up to me and complimenting my voice, and they'd say something like, "Man, you really should try and get on radio. You know, try radio, Jake, you know." And I wasn't even a fan of radio. I never really showed any interest, so anytime someone would compliment me, I would just be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, thanks. Oh, yeah, thanks for that." So, eventually, though, a friend of mine told me about a community radio station here in the university called Siren Radio, formerly Siren FM, and he basically just kind of nudged my shoulder and said, "Give it a try." So I signed up to it, and eventually later down the line they gave me the role. They gave me my own slot where I decided to create a radio show all about video games. So combination of talking about video games old and new, talking about things like sharing bad voice acting in video game snippets, and also playing lots of like video game soundtracks, heavy metal, the kind of stuff that's basically it was a very anti-radio show. It was pretty much anything that other community or basic commercial mainstream radio shows, whatever they tried to do, I would try to do the opposite and just do things that I enjoyed, and that resulted in people kind of flocking towards it. It became a bit of a fairly kind of popular show on the station. It's considered to be actually one of the most popular shows on Siren Radio as a result.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you letting us know your background. It's really interesting. So, it sounds like that. I assume that you're a gamer yourself. Maybe tell us a little bit about some of the games that you talked about, some of the games you played growing up. Just let's make that connection between radio and video games.
Yeah, I've been a video gamer for a very long period of my life, really. I would always start off when I was younger. I would always start off like watching my dad or my brothers play things like the Super Nintendo and the Sega Mega Drive, otherwise known as the Sega Genesis in the United States. Looking at games that really caught my attention, things like watch Mortal Kombat and then Super Mario 64, and just kind of being really pulled in by these things. I never played them myself because I was very anxious. I was like very worried about kind of giving it a try, failing and things like that. I think eventually down the line, though, I think the first game that I genuinely picked up and tried to play was Doom on the PlayStation, and it's to this day my favourite game to this day. It kind of cemented my interests, especially in first-person shooters. That was like, you could say that was like my gateway into the world of first-person shooters, and up to this point I've been playing like so many games. To the point where it's like, especially old school stuff, especially like kind of the retro stuff that has started to kind of lean towards show interest in. Eventually down the line, the more games I played and more things I kind of branched out towards and joined more communities later on as a result. And really, it kind of helped. Like gaming really has tied into a lot of my work, like voice acting in video games. The radio show, of course, about video games. The writing that I've done, I'm the co-creator of a magazine called E1M1 magazine, which is all about like retro first-person shooters and things like that, and I've written for loads of websites, and you've done stuff on YouTube as well about video games. It's all pretty much just tied into that. Like, most, if not all, of my kind of career has been tied to my interests in video games, which basically kind of just sparked when I was a toddler.
Fantastic. Absolutely love it. It always warms my heart when someone says Doom is my favorite video game, because Doom 2 is like my all-time favorite video game.
Good choice.
Nice. So obviously you have quite an interest in first-person shooters, video games. You have a great voice, so obviously there's like this marriage between radio and video games. Tell us about how you ran across Postal for the first time.
I ran across Postal. It's quite a funny story, actually. It was during my time at university, and I was outside the library chatting to a friend of mine, and I was talking to video games about him. I believe that was the point when I had the radio show as well. And he spoke to me and said, "You ever heard of a game called Postal? Like Postal 2? And I was like, "Never heard of it. What's it about?" And the premise alone was enough to kind of get my interest going. He basically said, it's a first-person shooter, kind of free roam, etc., but the whole kind of objective of the game is to make you want to go postal and do the violent route. It says that you don't have to, but there's so many things that are making you want to do that. So, for example, loads of bystanders being really rude, or there's long lines, or anytime you try and do something like go to church or go to the library or something like that, like enemies swarm in and they're trying to basically kill you. And he told me about some of the the wacky kind of features and other kind of things that you can do in the game. And just the amount of freedom in it as well, and the bizarre sense of humour included. And I remember just chatting with him about it, just laughing on the spot, and I thought, this sounds great. Eventually down the line, I think it was maybe a year later or so, because I kind of forgot about it after a bit of a while, but when I found out about it, it was a flatmate's room on his PC, and he had Postal 2, and I was like, oh, hey, can I give this a try? I wasn't a PC gamer around this time, I was more towards the console stuff. So he allowed me to play it, and I was hooked from the first try. Just being able to, again, just free roaming around the town of Paradise, just causing havoc, and it was very much kind of like an experimental playthrough to kind of get a taste of the kind of nutty, surreal sense of humour. I mean, I love surrealist kind of sense of humour myself, and very bizarre, kind of tongue-in-cheek, cheeky jokes and things like that. So it was just really a match made in heaven for me when I was playing this kind of stuff. And I had an absolute blast, and just hearing the Postal Dude's voice by Rick Hunter especially. It was just great to hear those lines being delivered by him, and it even got me just like sometimes walking around the house kind of quipping those lines to myself, making myself chuckle. So that was definitely like my foot into the Postal series. It was definitely by Postal 2. Later down the line, I ended up, I checked out some of the later games. Like I researched into the first Postal game before I actually played that one, and was like really blown away by how they were trying to, really push the boundaries with the content, and played the remake, Postal Redux, and I got completely hooked to that, and had a ball with that. And that, of course, led to me deciding, you know what, I think I would like to interview these guys for my radio show.
Awesome. Absolutely love it. My follow-up question was going to talk about how you, your interview with Rick Hunter and all that, how that went, and how you got that, because, obviously Rick's a very private guy, so it's really cool that you were able to do that. But before I get into it, just from one voice actor to another, can you tell me more about Rick Hunter's performance in Postal? What do you like about it? What are your favorite quotes? I just want to hear more about the creative. It seems like a lot of people, especially fans of Postal, are just so hooked to his voice. So it would be interesting to hear kind of the reasoning why, from a professional like you, people might enjoy it.
I think some of the reasons why people enjoyed Rick Hunter's performance as the Postal Dude, I think it's, for one thing, like the most distinctive feature about it is that it's very smooth, it's very deep, very kind of like a buttery kind of sound to it. It's very pleasant to listen to. And even the delivery, it's not anything grandiose or in your face or anything like that. I mean, that's basically his natural voice, which surprises a lot of people. it's really just him kind of reading off these strange, bizarre kind of quips. And, you know, it's kind of like a bit of a sarcastic slant to it, like, you know, hey, you know, kind of being a little bit in your face, like, slight kind of, you're going to just imagine maybe slight smirk or a slight grin to these kind of, these lines of delivery. And it's like, it's some of the things he says as well is just exceptionally bizarre at times. Like, I mean, you know, his golden line, of course, being, you know, I regret nothing. That alone is just, it's a short, sweet, quotable kind of catchphrase that's stuck with the game, and it's unsurprising to see that so many people love just saying it. I regret nothing. They even put it on the merchandise as well with the you know, official postal shirts, etc. As for things like favourite lines and things like that, again, it's always things like just some of the bizarre kind of one-liners that he would drop just in between, like things like combat, like again, another one of his quirkier lines would just be like, you know, you go around, you like blow someone's head off with a shotgun, and then the postal dude would just quip something like butt sauce, and you just play through it, you just kind of take a moment to wince and just kind of burst out laughing at it. Even in context, even with the context given, it still sounds completely, utterly wacky and nutty. And again, that's what people like about it. People like that kind of, that wacky, silly sense of humour that comes with it, with this kind of smooth, very, very memorable, kind of deep bass delivery.
Great. Yeah, I you know, me personally, I just love hearing sort of the creative feedback and kind of like the little nuances of why people enjoy things. So that was a fantastic answer. I appreciate it. Yeah, with that being said, you know, you have a great interview with Rick Hunter. He's a very private person, and, you know, obviously that led to this more or less. But let's take us back to that moment you decided to interview Rick Hunter. How did you obtain it? What was that like speaking with him? I mean, you're a huge fan of the game, and all of a sudden you have this dude on your radio show. What was that like?
Well, it all came to happen. Getting Rick Hunter on board for a radio interview, that was. let me put it this way. I'm pretty much the first and only person to be able to get Rick Hunter on for an interview, and I am incredibly grateful for that. I owe it all to the gang at Running with Scissors, because when I interviewed the creator of Running with Scissors, Vince Desi, and also the business guy Mike J. So basically the kind of two faces of the company. So when I got those guys on board, and I thought, you know what, it would be interesting to kind of get a bit of a history lesson from these guys, get their input about the entries in the series, etc. So when I got them on board, chatted them for about an hour or so, and left it pretty much all the way through mostly uncut. Like, their answers were completely uncut. So I think they kind of trusted me as a result. They kind of trusted me with a potential interview with Rick Hunter. So I asked, you know, I would love to get Rick on board. Is he up for an interview? Do you have his contact email? So since they trusted me, they said, yeah, let me pass on the message, said Mike. And surprisingly enough, Rick said yes. I didn't know much about Rick at all. I didn't know how private of a guy he was. So I think later down the line I realised how much of a rare opportunity this was to be able to speak with Rick. So when I got him on board, when I got him in the Skype call, we got chatting, and, you know, naturally delivered some of the questions with him. What I kind of really appreciated was the fact that Rick was a very humble guy, and he still is. He's a very humble kind of private guy, and as grateful as he is for his, like, so for some of the feedback and for the kind things that the fans have said about his performance, he's really not a fan of his performance. He really doesn't think he's that great of a voice role in the Postal series. I mean, he's done voice roles for, like, you know, adverts and radios, things like that. That's kind of like his bread and butter way of keeping financially afloat. But otherwise, though, he just wasn't really a fan of it. And I'd say, you know, did you have any favourite lines? Did you enjoy the role? And he would just say, nah, not really. And, like, he's probably the only person I've interviewed who genuinely didn't think too much of his role. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that, he was basically just really being very open and honest and down to earth about it, and that's something I just really appreciated. I appreciated these kind of answers and him opening up as well, for the first time, about why he never did the role for Postal 3, which got picked up by Corey Cruz, a friend of his, because there was a lot of misinformation online, people saying, Rick saw the game and said, it's terrible, I'm not going to voice in this, but that's completely untrue. That nothing of the sort ever happened. So to be able to, again, to dig into these kind of very obscure facts about him and dig out some more information about the guy, very, like I say, very humble, very down-to-earth answers, and to get him on my radio show, the Cyberden, it was an absolute honour. And as a result, I think that interview especially, that helped get my name out towards the Postal community. A lot of the fans of the Postal series, a lot of people have been flocking to that interview ever since, and a lot of people know my name and know for my interviews because of that. Some people actually come up and say that was the first interview they ever saw of me, and some even go up and say, "Hey Jake, you're going to be voicing in Postal games someday?" It's like, well, maybe they know my number. And some people say, "Hey, can I get in touch with Rick?" It's like, I'm afraid not. I gotta keep these things tight, So, like I say, it was kind of really surprising and again really humbling as well to see that this once in a lifetime interview with the guy was pretty much kind of like my springboard as well to kind of get more well known within the Postal community especially. And again, really grateful, really, really honoured for it, and I thank Rick, I thank all the fans, and I especially thank the guys at Running with Scissors for letting me get this sorted out for the Cyberden.
Awesome. Nice. Well, with that being said, I know you mentioned Corey in there. It would be cool if you can kind of compare and contrast Corey's performance with Rick's performance. Have you interviewed Corey before, by the way?
Yeah, I interviewed Corey shortly sometime after the interview with Rick Hunter, because I thought that interviewing Rick, that was great, of course. But I thought, well, what about Corey? No one's ever actually chatted to the guy. So it would be interesting to get his input on the third entry, which is, of course, infamous in the Postal community. The creators hate it. They kind of disavow it. They kind of pretend it doesn't exist. And I just thought, what? A chappie who basically voiced in what's considered to be one of the worst games ever due to various reasons out of the developer's control and out of Running with Scissors control. I just thought, what, this would be an interesting spin. So I naturally I asked through Running with Scissors to get in contact with Corey for me, and he was very happy to chat a bit about it. And we got chatting, of course, and we had a very good laugh with me and him about his role. I was very much drawn to his performance because I checked out the cutscenes first, just to get a bit of an idea about his performance, and I was just actually quite taken aback by it because Corey, he described his voice as very peculiar, and I thought, well, I can relate. With his voice, it's not so much smooth and buttery and kind of mellow. It's a bit more radio personality like. It's a bit more, a little bit more outgoing, a little bit more energetic, but it still has that kind of, southern kind of, the American kind of twang to it, kind of from the Arizona, Texas area. I think that's something that a lot of people really enjoyed. His performance, again, it just seemed very natural. The delivery of a lot of the lines was just very quirky. You could tell he was enjoying it. You could tell that he was really enjoying the bizarreness of these very strange lines that appeared in Postal 3. Again, it may be considered to be a terrible game, but a lot of people say Corey's performance is probably the only good thing about it, and I totally agree full-heartedly.
Awesome. Yeah, it's like I said, it's really interesting to hear from someone on an outside perspective, just kind of getting a feel of of Corey's performance versus Rick's performance. And you're right. I think that is the only great thing about Postal 3 is his performance. That covers a lot of the bulk of what I wanted to essentially speak to you about, and you just nailed every single follow-up with great answers, great performance. It's almost like you speak for a living or something. But what I wanted to ask, I don't know if this is something that we want to be meta about in the documentary, but I did want to just get it on camera while we're here. Wanted you to just kind of talk about your interactions with us, and to just tell us in your own words the story about us getting connected to you, which got us in touch with Rick, which I am absolutely grateful for, really appreciative. We actually knocked out that interview a week and a half ago. Went awesome. So thank you again. But yeah, if you just want to tell us that story, that'd be great, because that's kind of what fans have been asking for this documentary, is making sure that Rick Hunter was featured.
Sure. In regards to getting on board with this documentary, my memory's a little foggy about who messaged who first. I think it might have been me messaging them first, because I saw this Going Postal documentary kind of like just appearing on my Twitter feed, and I thought, okay, this looks interesting. And I just like getting on board with certain projects because I hate being bored, simply put. I just hate being bored, and if there's something that really interests me, especially in the world of video games or voice work or anything like that, then I would like to kind of hopefully try and put my foot forwards towards it and give it a crack. So I pretty much just messaged and said, hey, if you ever need anything, I'd love to help out if there's anything you guys need. So just kind of generally throwing my hat into there. And of course, the documentary guys were very, very, very approachable, very generous about these things. The crew pretty much asked me about getting on board Rick Hunter, and I thought, well, it's a little bit tough, to be honest. I don't know if I can get it done. Kind of explaining the problems that we've been having with getting him on board, and it's like, yeah, I kind of know some of the reasons why, some not all, but nevertheless, I pretty much acted as the middleman for getting Rick Hunter on for the Going Postal documentary, and he was a bit hesitant at first. He was like, oh, I don't know. It's like, he's a private guy, as we all know. Naturally, a little bit of back and forth with talking with the documentary creators and Rick. Eventually down the line, though, we kind of made a bit of a breakthrough, because Rick decided, you know what, Jake, I'll do it for you. I respect you. I think you do great work. As long as this is something that you can get something out of, I'll do it. So, very happy about that. And, got on board with the documentary crew to kind of chat about things, about, not only getting Rick on board, but they also expressed interest in getting me on board as well. I did not expect that in the slightest. I really didn't expect to be taken on board as well for an interview. So I was very much happy to do it. I thought this was going to be a very exciting kind of opportunity to go on camera and just chat a little bit about some of the stuff I've done, and also maybe shed a little bit of light and behind the scenes of like the Cyberden and my postal interviews and my interest in the series, etc. So I was more than happy to kind of jump on board, and more than happy to kind of just keep trying to help out in any way I can, because it just seemed like an interesting project to me, and I just like contributing to these kinds of things.
Awesome. Much appreciated. Something that I actually want to hear from you, I know you kind of touched upon it, but I kind of want to like overlay this shadow of kind of secrecy over Rick to kind of just build it up a little bit. So if you can kind of just like express to us a little bit about how private of a person he is, and I want you to emphasize again how you did the one and only interview. I just kind of want to encapsulate that all into one question with a follow-up answer. So can you tell us about how private Rick is?
Rick is a very private guy. Some people will ask to what extent, and I say, well, let me put it this way, you won't find him on social media. Like, you will have quite literally 0% chance of finding him. And I don't think anyone has really found him to this day. He really just wants to kind of stay out of the limelight and just kind of, he wants to get on with his work, and he doesn't want to, I suppose to not get too like caught up with like too many fan emails or all these requests about getting him on board. He has a YouTube channel where he mostly just uploads things like some like, for example, news pieces and things like that. That's probably the only kind of chance you'll spot him, but otherwise, there's no kind of like contact email, things like that. With me getting on board with Rick was simply a matter of talking to the crew at Running with Scissors after I basically secured their trust with an interview. And again, I did not intend originally on chatting with Rick Hunter because I didn't even think of it. I never kind of came up with that idea. I just thought, let's chat with the Postal developers, and then just afterwards I thought, what, let's get him on board. But how do I do it? So I spoke to Mike J about it, and he hooked me up with them. Again, I think it was just like a matter of trust. And again with Rick as well. I'm still technically in contact with him. It's not like people think, oh, Jake, you're chatting with him on a regular basis, you're like buddy friends. It's like, it's not necessarily the case. I mean, I have his email, and if I'm lucky, I'll get a response from him, but the guy is very busy. He's like flooded with emails with work roles, voice roles for radios and adverts and things like that. So it's not necessarily me and him being like good old voice acting friends or things like that, but the guy has specified he likes me and he really respects my work, and he really kind of trusted me with that interview and like his private life. He says that he would rather kind of stay out of the limelight and just kind of do his own thing, because to him the postal voice roles, things like that, it was kind of just another gig, even if he was very grateful about it. So he doesn't want anyone to kind of get the idea that he's like easily approachable. I think he's kind of like he likes his peace and quiet. He might be I think he's a little bit shy about the idea of like global fame. I think the idea of global fame would probably spook out some people. So, but nevertheless, I can respect that. I can respect the fact that he just wants to kind of like, live his life, do his work, and just kind of go things at his own pace.
Fantastic. Looks like Tad's joining us right at the end here. What's up, Tad? Can you hear us? Maybe not. Well, Jake, we're right coming towards the end. I got a couple more questions.
Okay.
Are we doing good on cam and sound? You guys doing okay over there?
You're doing great, thanks.
All good.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. So I was looking at your body of work, man. You got some cool stuff here. In particular, I think it's really awesome. So you did voice for Command and Conquer, correct?
I did some voice roles for some of the mods and the modding scenes from Command and Conquer. One of the I mean, I've been a big fan of Command and Conquer myself. I interviewed like the composer. I interviewed Kane, the big villain from the Tiberium universe of Command and Conquer. So very much when I was kind of like growing up, and when I was kind of starting off with my voice stuff with amateur voice acting and kind of climbing up. Eventually down the line, I just kind of like the idea of being able to get on board with any kind of real-time strategy kind of stuff, and especially with the Command and Conquer modding community, which I was very much expressed interest in. So sent off a few auditions to the Mental Omega, and I think it was the Twisted Insurrection. So one which is like in the Red Alert universe with the Allies and the Soviets, and I got on board with that with a few voice roles for some of the units, and also dubbing over Yuri, the kind of the Russian psychic. So that was kind of used as a bit of a mod of the year trailer, as if basically to say vote for me. As for Twisted Insurrection, again that's like a spin-off on Tiberium's Sun, set in like the post-apocalyptic future between like the Global Defense Initiative and the kind of evil Brotherhood of Nod. With that, what happened with that was, again, I voiced a few characters here and there, a few units, and I also voiced basically an announcer, or EVA as it's called, for like a completely original faction called Globotech. So again, it was a matter of just sending off my demo reels, getting in contact with one of the people and sharing some stuff, and they just kind of liked the idea of me kind of doing announcer work, just kind of like dropping my voice down to make a very serious, very kind of flat tone. Yeah, one for the developer commentary.
So rolling.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Going Postal, take 2. I regret nothing.
You do that very well. So tell us about this lore project that you worked on.
Okay, so Lore in a Minute. That was a pretty interesting one because one time when I interviewed a YouTuber called Larry Bundy Jr., he's a chappie who does fact hunts and he's a video game historian. So when I got him on board for a little quiz on the Cyberden on my radio show, and I spoke to him and he said, we were just talking about things like, hey, do you have any contacts, like voice contacts, that I could probably get in contact with? So it was very cheeky of me to ask, but Larry's a very great guy. He was very generous and helped me with this, and he said, okay, I'll give you this email for a project called Lore in a Minute. And I heard about them before. Basically just 1 minute of animations and basically just very quick narrations about the plot, etc. So, it had a few kind of famous YouTubers on there, like there was Dodger, who was friends with the late Total Biscuit. There was also an abridger called Octopimp, who he's done some voice stuff in there as well. So I got on board, and again, 1 minute narrations, did it for free, and it was like, yeah, this is fun. It's like, some of the video got like maybe 100,000, 200,000 views if I was lucky, which I was very, very kind of wowed about. The funny thing was, anytime I'd do that, like the first time or the second time I would do it, like one was about, I think the first was The Secret of Monkey Island lore. Then I did one about Splatoon, one of my favourite series, and Quake, etc. And for a while I had a few people actually dropping in the comments when they first heard me, and I thought, is this Total Biscuit? I was like, hey, that's Total Biscuit. Is it? This Total Biscuit. Then I've had people saying, hang on, is that kind of curious? Is that Markiplier? And people just kind of scratching their heads going, who the hell's this guy? He sounds familiar, but I've never quite heard of this Jake the Voice Parr guy before. So that was kind of like my foot into that. Later down the line, it turned out that Disney bought out Maker Studios, who creates Lore in a Minute, because Disney being a gigantic monopoly and just kind of taking everything as their own. And what they did eventually down the line was they bought him out, and I got an email, and they said, Jake, we're going to start paying you for each video. And I was like, must be a scam. I know what's going on. This guy's scamming me. It's a prank. And I was like, oh, sure. What are you paying everyone else then, huh? And they responded with, well, we're not going to tell you that. We're contracted not to be able to do that. So I kind of realised, I responded with, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I'll gladly accept payment. I thought this was a prank. But no, it turned out to be true. It turned out Disney genuinely bought out Make Studios. So you can imagine my surprise when like these digital checks were coming in and checks through the post saying, oh, you're getting money from Disney. And it's like, seriously? This is surreal. This is completely surreal. And when I tell people, they say, oh, what movies are you in? It's like, well, not really in the movies, not in a Pixar movie, or it's just YouTube stuff, Which, I mean, like I say, I'm still very grateful and happy I got on board with that, but some people kind of thought that just because I got paid by Disney, that means I'm in their radar. Anything but. I was just a blip in their radar. I was just like, I was just freelance voicing for a company who so happens to be owned by Disney. And even after Disney bought it out, I did that for about a year or two, and eventually, sadly, the well kind of just ran dry. Disney just stopped funding Maker Studios, and they just stopped doing Lore in a Minute in about maybe, I think it was 2018 or so, which it was really sad to me. It was really sad. It was a good way to make some cash, and it was kind of it was a good challenge to be able to like read through a script, trying to bang it out within 1 minute and get all that done without slipping up too much and like editing it together. Because I admit, as a voice actor, I kind of struggle with reading stuff aloud because people wouldn't have guessed, but it is a little bit of a struggle because sometimes I slip over my own words, and then there's also the sound aspects of things. If there's pops and clicks, then I'm a real perfectionist, so I've got to get it bang tidy just right. So, but nevertheless, I mean that's how I pretty much got on board with Disney and Lore in a Minute.
That's awesome. Let's go. I really want to see a Jake the Parr Disney Channel opening. I'm Jake Parr. I'm Jake the Voice. Welcome to Disney Channel.
You're watching Disney Channel.
You'd be like the oldest person drawing it.
Just appear in one of their TV shows like, "Hi, my name is Jake the Voice Parr. I'm 15 years old, guys. Let's go to high school."
You have the goatee, and you might pull it off. To be honest.
Ted, you want to go ahead and
Yeah.
answer questions?
So I just want to bring it back to the postal universe real quick, with two questions just to kind of wrap up here. Before I do, I'm just curious. This is to Amy. Hey Amy, are we recording just scratch audio on camera, or did Matt not join us today?
I'm here.
Yeah, he's here. He's just on boom.
Oh, okay.
He's-
Matt's
yeah.
over there crushing it.
He's got a radio mic
Matt,
on
you're
him as well.
crushing it. I just wanted to double check. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
No worries.
Well, now that we're all good, so, Jake, what does the postal universe mean to you?
The postal universe, what it means to me is, it's a very rebellious kind of approach to the world of gaming. The first entry in the series, that was basically the developers trying to do something different, like something totally different, a lot more blunt and upfront. Because the developers originally, they did like infotainment, edutainment games, and so it's kind of quite jarring to see them go from like these kind of quote-unquote kiddie games to something basically about mass murder. And again, that's what it's really about. The Postal series started off as just like a gritty, kind of serious approach to storytelling and gaming, keeping the lens open, keeping things up to interpretation, which I really enjoyed about the Postal storyline. Eventually down the line, it went for a much more comical and silly approach, but again, it still had that kind of rebellious spin to it. The Postal series has always really been about satire, it's been about parodying, pop culture references, it's always trying to be very tongue-in-cheek and satirical, kind of poking fun at American values, or just kind of very strange, bizarre kind of aspects of life, just pretty much things cranked up to 11. Sorry, just bear with me. Sorry, you'll have to jump cut that. So anyway.
That's okay.
So, like I say, cranking things up to 11 with how bizarre and wacky and zany it all is. And I think that's something that people really like about it. It gives people the freedom to kind of just do some of the most horrific and obscene things, like, you can cut a guy's head off with an axe, you can start kicking the bodies around, you can urinate everywhere and cause an absolute mess. And at the same time, the world around you, it doesn't necessarily respond in a realistic way, because sometimes you go on a complete wacky killing spree or something like that, and then inexplicably people might just start whipping out shotguns and machine guns, maybe they run around, maybe you cause a fire, set fire to a marching band, and then other people will start like jumping and trying to arrest you, and it's pretty much ramping up the wackiness and the nuttiness to such high degree that it's bound to not only kind of just make people kind of really relish and embrace the freedom that you're given with the Postal series, but also it's enough to kind of turn heads and start making people feel very put off by it. It's like it's wanting to shock. It's kind of like deliberately attempting to be disturbing and wild. Like I say, very rebellious. People like that. People like the freedom to be able to do these things. People have played Postal and they've said things like, to the developers that kind of sense of freedom that you get with this kind of misunderstood character who's going around like often mistreated by people, but also at the same time the freedom to pull off the most insane stuff that naturally you couldn't do in real life. It's just been something that's very comforting for them in a way, and very, very humorous, and something that you can kind of just like laugh with your friends with as well. And people just really, really like that. I mean, there's been people who actually wrote into Running with Scissors saying that, I was in a very bad place, I had depression, I played Postal, kept playing that, and, it helped me get through. So Vince Desi, the kind of like the creator of Running with Scissors, pretty much just said, it's been proven that Postal has cured depression. So it's it's just it's a very it's just a very kind of, like I say, very creative, wacky, zany, anarchic, and nutty kind of series that pretty much anyone can jump into, and as long as they're not taking it too seriously, then they are bound to get a lot of joy out of it.
What do you think why are people so interested in, what's the appeal to, opening up somebody's head and then peeing on their, headless corpse? Why do people like this?
I think with this, I think people love the kind of obscene things you can do with, decapitation and the ability to urinate everywhere, things like that. Well, put it this way, you're not going to be able to do these things in real life, are you? It's the fact that you were able to do this in the game, but it's so over the top and wacky, it's completely unrealistic. The fact that, for example, in order to put yourself out if you're on fire, you've got to basically look in the air and continuously urinate until you just douse yourself out. And not to mention just going around as if your bladder is basically the size of a swimming pool. And then you grab the most bizarre weapons like a machete that you throw around like a boomerang that just cuts people's heads off, and then you catch it miraculously. Again, people just love the nuttiness of it all. It's hardly based in any kind of realism. It's deliberately shocking and gruesome. It's the kind of stuff that you can't really be able to do in any kind of other game. Even to this day, you can't really do much of this, what you are able to do in Postal. And even those who do kind of allow you to do these things, they don't nearly let you go as over-exaggerated as this series does.
That was a great answer. Yeah, that was a great answer. Great sound bites. Cool. Well, Jake, Jason, and if you have anything else, I have one more question. Just when I'm, chatting with all of the fans about Postal, kind of giving them just an opportunity to directly say something to Mike and Vince about what this Postal series means to you.
Well,
so you can take a beat if you want to, think about that,
sure.
Or jump right into it.
I'll just blow my nose first. Just take a quick swig of water as well. So a message.
All the student hits and throwbacks.
Oh no.
Sorry about that. Didn't expect that to happen. No, sorry, we got people like wirelessly controlling the computers to make sure this is a different radio station. This is Brayford, not Siren. Kind of keeping it running from a distance, so that explains that. Anyway, so a message to Mike and Vince about the series, what it means to me. Is that what you're after? Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So just double checking. Right, so the Postal series to me, I think it's a kind of series, as corny as it sounds, I think it's brought a lot of people together, and I think that Mike J and Vince, I think they are very proud of their series, they are very proud of their baby, and they should be. It has brought a lot of people together, embracing it's just the wild craziness of it all. And that's really brought out the creative side of people as well. Like so many people making parodies and internet memes and mods and things like that, all getting together to share some of their favourite moments and just having a laugh about it. That's really it, to be honest. That's really what the Postal series means to me. It's just a crazy, funny, highly entertaining series where you're pretty much able to do so many bizarre things that are bound to get people to start laughing and kind of getting together and sharing their interests and talking about it. It's really brought a lot of people together, and I think the Postal community quite literally is probably one of the friendliest, most approachable communities out there in the world of gaming. It's void of toxicity based on my personal experiences. A lot of people get along, you know, like I say, very creative, very friendly, very funny as well, and I think that's a really big achievement. I think Mike and Vince should be really, really proud to know that their fans are not only just very approachable and friendly and creative, but also loyal as well. They brought together probably one of the most loyal fan bases, like, for any video game series. If it wasn't for the fans, the Postal series and the Running with Scissors company would not be going on, because so many people loved the first game. They absolutely adored the second game. That brought on more opportunities for the company when the third game, which could have been basically the nail in the coffin, but it wasn't, because people just kept sharing the word. They kept, like, you know, signing the petitions both in game and literally to get Postal 2 spread around, and pretty much just keep the spirit of the series alive. They just want to keep having fun and keep making other people, like, try this stuff out and have fun as well. And like I say, I think that's something that Mike and Vince are probably very proud to know about, and I think that's something that a lot of fans, including myself, are very grateful for. So I can easily just say thank you to Mike and to Vince and to all of the Running with Scissors community especially, and all of the developers and the creators. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for keeping the series going and for creating it in the first place, because it is truly one of the most unique, creative game franchises out there, with a completely different approach to, like, for example, PR and handling the fans and reaching out to them. Very, very down to earth, very one-to-one with them and open. That's something that, again, not a lot of companies do that. Not a lot of indies do that. Not a lot of indie companies even last for more than 20 years, but they managed to do it. Or at least more than 15 or 20 years or so. Not a lot of companies could even pull off that feat, but they have. And again, that's part and due to that kind of one-to-oneness, that kind of honesty and openness to the community. So again, Mike and Vince, everyone who's worked on it, everyone who's a fan of it, everyone who's checked out the interviews that I've done of it and spread out the memes and things like that, and the voice actors especially, like Rick and Corey, all I can say is just thank you so much, because I most definitely regret nothing.
Fantastic, Jake. That was really good. That was awesome. I think that pretty much.
One quick question.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, Jake, if you can just tell us real quick your thoughts about Postal 4. Have you played it? What do you think about it? A lot of people are calling it sort of like the spiritual successor to Postal 2. So just kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Just
And then that'll be the last one. Amy, are we doing good on tape there?
Yeah, it's all going well.
Okay,
Hey,
perfect.
what is this? 1999.
Exactly. I was thinking more like 97.
So, my thoughts on Postal 4, I was very taken aback by Postal 4 when I discovered the news that, fourth game came out. It turns out that they wanted to remake Postal 2, but I think they wanted to eventually down the line kind of create their own spins on it, and they released it in a very buggy, janky pre-alpha state, as they call it. Fair enough. It really was because the company basically was on a shoestring budget. They had little to go by. But even when I tried it, when I managed to get a review code for it and was kind of whacking around, I could still see that even in its, like, very early on state, it's not even 5% completed at the time when I was playing it. Not even 5% completed. There was still something there. It was still playable. But I could definitely tell that, I played it and I thought, you know what, this is a Postal game. It is a very satisfying taste of things to come, because the spirit of the series is there. The puerile sense of humour, the nutty wackiness, some of the kind of like aspects of the series that they eventually kind of fleshed out slowly but surely as time went on. I think it's really cool. I really like some of the brand new ideas, because that they didn't want to make a pure copy of Postal 2 when they decided, you know what, let's make it a full-on sequel. So the fact that they went and decided to kind of continue to cram more and more cool kind of features with every update and iron it out, and again keep in open contact with the community about it, I think it just makes Postal 4 all the more interesting to kind of muck around in and try out, and then you wait for a bit until the next update or 2 updates down the line, and then all of a sudden you check out all of these other nutty features, like for example, boxes of pigeons that you can throw around. You can start spray painting or firing flares up people's backsides, and then you meet YouTubers like Civi11 in the in the health pipe den, stuff like that. I think Postal 4 is just one of those games where it's like, the more updates that are rolled out, the more surprises that it comes with it, the more weird, kind of unusual things that they have on offer. And I think that is always a good sign with me. I think that Postal 4, when it's completed, I think it's probably going to be on par with Postal 2. I think it's probably going to be up there. I don't know if it's going to be as popular, because Postal 2 obviously has been around for much longer, but I think with the kind of the free roam gameplay they're going for, the creative ideas, the silly sense of humour, and all the other new ideas, like, for example, just tripping out and turning into a cat and then start mauling people, stuff like that, those kind of fresh ideas, it is undoubtedly, that spirit of the Postal series is definitely still there. The heart is still beating, and it's still going to keep on going. And that is definitely something I really like and really appreciate about Postal 4. And I strongly recommend anyone who gets their hands on it. I definitely recommend giving it a try, especially if you're a Postal fan. Especially also because shameless plug that at the time you'll hear this documentary, I'll likely be in the game. I'm not going to say who I am due to contract reasons, but I am in Postal 4. Likely at the time of this this documentary comes out. So if you do find who I am, if you do find the character I am, give us a shout over Twitter or Discord or Facebook, something like that. Just let me know how you think of my weird performance, because I can safely say that the lines I did for this particular character were very... It was very Postal-esque, let's put it that way, and it was very good fun to do.
Awesome, love it. I guess that leads me to one final question. I promise this is the last one. I want to know your opinion on John St. John being in Postal 4 and the voice of the Postal dude. And what do you think?
I think with John St. John as the Postal dude, a lot of people were caught out by surprise by that. I mean, I was one as well. And I think it's just one of those things that you've got to kind of let it simmer. Like, I loved Rick's performance, I loved Corey's performance. I wasn't too hot about John's performance, to be honest. I love John St. John. He's one of my inspirations for voice acting. I mean, the guy's Duke Nukem, and he's done all sorts of awesome games, and a very versatile guy. Again, I wasn't too sure about it, because I could tell that it's kind of like his voice, but like slight, maybe forced twinge. I was like, I don't know. But later down the line, I just kind of grew to really like it. I think it was good that Running with Scissors got him on board, because it gives a lot more variety. There's a lot more variety with the different voices that the Postal dudes now have. And I think, again, with John St. John, it still has that kind of... that kind of memorable twang to his voice when he's doing the Postal dude. And I think he's a lot more expressive with his lines. That's something I kind of picked on later down the line. He's definitely probably one of the most expressive characters of the bunch, because Rick Hunter was quite, chill, laid back usually. With Corey Cruz, quite radio personality kind of sound to him. With John St. John, again, very expressive. It's still in a comical way, and that's what I like about it. That's what I like about his performance. So, again, I recommend to anyone who isn't too sure about it, just give it a bit of time. Just hear him out with some of his bizarre kind of quips and one-liners, and I think you'll probably enjoy it as well. It's funny because later down the line, I actually managed to get in contact with John St. John, who I interviewed for my radio show many years ago, and I asked him, and I said, look, I want to create a promo for my radio show for the Cyberden. I had a promo from Rick as the Postal Dude. I had a promo from Corey from the Postal Dude. So I asked him, could I ask for a promo and then a few lines for me to edit in? So what happened was I got all those lines and spliced them together. So it sounded like a conversation between, Rick, Corey, and John, all in character, kind of, arguing and quipping with each other, saying introducing Jake the Voice on the Cyberden, and it's like, who the hell is this guy? It's like, everyone's just kind of going a little bit back and forth, and then ending with who's getting paid for this? I'm pretty sure I'm getting paid for this, and just end with gun cocking sounds, and then Corey just going, choose carefully, Jake. And when I put that up on YouTube, and people heard the interactions between John and Rick and Corey, I had a number of people kind of message me and drop comments and say, you know what, I like John's voice now. I'm actually getting into his voice, and I think that kind of chemistry that you heard between them. And again, it's just outtakes and clips I edited from different time zones, like from 2017, 2018, and then 2020. Just chopped them all, glued them all together in this coherent, kind of nutty introduction kind of promo for my radio show. And people like that. I think people just really like the kind of chemistry and the certain nuances in John's performance, especially, as a result as well.
Do you have that audio clip by chance, or is that on YouTube that we could pull from?
It's on YouTube, you can pull it from there, but I think I should have an MP3 file laying around as well. I could easily send that to you.
Yeah, if you could send that to us then.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
I'm actually, there is a person who's actually, she said she wants to do an animation of it. If you want, I can get in contact with her and ask her, will you be able to get this done maybe for the documentary if you guys want to give it a crack? Maybe implement it if you've got space.
Do you recall who the name of the gal, the animator?
I think it's a lass called on Twitter called Key Raisy, as in KeeRaisy. So Key Raisy, like crazy.
That's not the same as our animator.
No, it's a different animator. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of postal animators. There's a huge fan base of people who like to do the art of postal. So it's always cool to see all these people, kind of come together and create something uniform for other people to really enjoy.
Yeah.
Real quick, do we want to go ahead and call it cut there? Do you have anything else?
Nope, that's
okay.
good.
Let's go ahead and call it cut. Just didn't want to run too much for your memory.
Okay, I'm cutting now.
Cool.